G'day, how you doing? Adam here from Poseidon Racing with another video in this series, which of course is the ultimate beginner's guide to Zed Run. Everything that you need to go from zero experience and zero horses to building that stable and winning, that's the most important part, winning as many races as possible in the shortest possible time. In this video, we're looking at Zed Run DNA, a bit of an overview before we deep dive into each aspect. So let's switch screens here and take a look. Okay, so you can find some awesome information and I'll leave these links in the description below also. You can come to community.zed.run, which is where I am now, and there's a whole bunch of different menus here which you can scroll through. But if you come down on the home page currently here, there is a welcome page. And it's basically Zed's everything that you need to know about Zed Run. But what I'm going to do is mix it with my knowledge of being one of the most successful stables and give you a hybrid information that will be far superior to pretty much anything else out there. There's a lot of other people charging or making you pay for knowledge that is not of the level that I'm going to give you in this free series. I can guarantee you that. Okay, so once you get here, you can see we have this welcome page and it's got a lot of great things. All right, we already covered some of these and today we're going to be looking at an overview of racehorse DNA and we'll look at the rest of these in the upcoming videos. But today, an overview on racehorse DNA, and in the upcoming 3 videos, we're going to take a deep dive on these 3 aspects also. So Zed Run DNA is what makes up the horse's attributes, you know, whether or not it's a champion, a great racer, etc., or even a great breeder, or even the colour comes from these attributes as well to some degree, or in fact the colour comes from the parents. We'll touch on that later. So that's not really part of the horse DNA as such, I suppose. But the DNA is made up of the bloodline, okay, genotype, and breed type. And we're going to deep dive a dedicated video on each of these coming up. But for the time being, we're just going to touch on the surface exactly what we're looking at. So bloodline there's 4 different bloodlines. You've got Nakamoto, Szabo, Finney, and Buterin. And this little table here, we'll touch on this when we do a deep dive. But essentially it's showing you when you breed certain horses or certain bloodlines with other bloodlines, what is the outcoming bloodline of the offspring. And you can see when you combine a Nakamoto with a Nakamoto that you get a Nakamoto. But when you combine a Szabo here with a Nakamoto and you cross on this graph, you get a Szabo. All right, we'll go deeper on that in the deep dive video. But you can also find out a little bit of information about the bloodlines in other places, and we'll go through that here. You can see over here we're at the Zed Run, Zed.run main page, website, and if we click on Learn and Genesis Racehorses, we come to this page and we can see a little bit of a blurb about Nakamotos, and then if we click Szabos, click Finney, click Buterin, and the main thing that we can see is there's a difference in the rarity and a difference in the genotype purity. So Nakamotos and Szabos are both super rare, and what that means is that there is only total Genesis ever to be released, and the Genesis horses are the ones that come directly from Zed Run. They are the original horses. They are the guardians, if you like, of the bloodline, of the purity, the Genesis horses. Now, the Szabos and the Nakamotos, they are both super rare. There's 1,000 of those each, and total Genesis horses to ever be released is 38,000. So the Genesis horses, as we keep breeding more and more horses, and we reach 1 million horses or 2 million horses in the ecosystem, there will still only be 38 Genesis or 38 guardians of that original DNA, if you like. All right, now when it comes to the super rare, the Szabos and the Nakamotos, there are 1,000 Z1 Nakamotos and 1,000 Z2 Nakamoto Genesis. And then if we go to Szabos, there's also only 1,000 Z3 Genesis and 1,000 Z4 Genesis, and that makes the Szabo and the Nakamoto overall rarity, it's a bit of a tongue twister, super rare. All right, they are the rarest of the rare when it comes to Genesis horses of that 38,000. You can see if we click on Nakamoto here that they contain 91 to 95% of the original Nakamoto bloodline, the original bloodline of the entire game. They hold and maintain or are the guardians for a large percentage of that bloodline. If we come down to Zabos, you see that genotype purity drops off a little bit. It's still very high at 82 to 84, but it drops down a little bit. We don't exactly know what that means. From a racing perspective, it seems like the Nakamotos are more likely to have, at the Genesis level, a champion racer than, say, the Zabos are. It doesn't mean the Zabos can't have, because one of the best horses in the game, Ducky Malin, is a Zabo herself. Okay, so there's absolutely champions in the Zabo line, but there might be more consistent amount of champions in the Nakamoto from a Genesis perspective. How that affects the breeding, we'll take a deeper dive into that later, but to be honest, we haven't had enough breeding to really understand exactly what's going on there, which is good for you because you're coming in when most of us still don't exactly know what's going on, and we'll figure it out, and maybe you'll figure it out better than me and start dominating the breeding game. As we move to Finnies, you can see the rarity goes from super rare down to rare, and if I click over on this other page, which I'll link to you as well, you can see the different genotypes from 1 through 10. So Genesis horses exist on genotype 1 through 10. It doesn't automatically mean though, and we'll touch on this in a moment, that a Z10 is a Genesis. Because when we breed, you can still produce Z10s because it's an addition. So if I breed a Z1 with a Z1, it creates a Z2. 1 plus 1 is 2. Some pretty simple maths there. Let's get into some more complex maths. If I breed a Z2 with a Z5, it equals a 7. 2 plus 5 is 7. If I breed a 5 with a 5, it equals a 10. Okay, and those bred horses are no longer Genesis. We'll touch on what they are in a moment. Okay, but as far as blood type is concerned, here are the Finnies are from 5s. You can see Finny, Z5. There are 2,000 of those. Still very, very rare in comparison to the overall Genesis supply, but not as rare as the 1,000 1s, 2s, 3s and 4s. And then as we go through Finnies, you can see the 6s have 3,000 and the 7s have 4,000. So they're getting less rare as you go down through those numbers. And then as we move through to Buterin here, and you can also see whilst we're on Finnies that their purity, their genotype purity drops from Nakamoto, 91 to 95, Zabo, 82 to 84, Finny, 72 to 75. We're getting less and less purity of that original bloodline. We don't exactly know why that is super important, but again, the Finnies are probably slightly less consistent at producing champions as the Zabos are, and then as the more dominant Nakamotos are. On a Genesis level, we don't know how the breeding works exactly yet. And then as we move to the Buterins, we can see from a rarity standpoint, the Buterins, the Z8s have 6,000, the 9s 9,000, and the 10s have 10,000 to make up that total supply of 38,000. These sold figures are not necessarily correct. At the recording of this video, it's early July 2021, and it looks like there's one more Genesis drop coming from Zed Run itself, and then that is probably all we have left. Okay, but I'll keep you updated in this series exactly where we are with those as we move forward. Okay, and then of course the Buterin's genotype purity is 58 to 65%. Okay, so that, because it's probably important, and given that the Nakamoto Genesis in the last sale was selling for about 15 Ethereum, the ones were, the twos were about 7, I think, Ethereum. That's a lot of money, the 15 Ethereum in relation to the Ethereum price of $2,500 US dollars, about 40 odd thousand dollars US dollars, okay? Whereas the Buterins all the way down at the 10s were only about 200 US dollars or even less. I think they're 150 US dollars, okay? So the value ratio, how does that stack up? Are you better off buying lots of Buterins Of course, on the aftermarket, the Buterins are going for $750 or $1,000, but still the Nakamotos are going for sort of $30,000, $40,000. Are you better off buying one for $30,000, $40,000, or are you better off buying lots of the $1,000 aftermarket Buterins? You have to weigh that up for yourself and develop that vision through watching these videos as to what you think the most important pieces of your game plan, of your stable are going to be, and then go out there and buy those ones that you think are important. All right, so that's Bloodline, Nakamoto, Szabo, Finney, Buterin. And we'll take a deep dive on that in the coming days. Then we have Genotype, which is your Z1, Z2, Z3, Z4, down to 10. So as we saw over here, these are the Genesis genotypes, Z1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to 10. Now, as I said previously, that doesn't necessarily mean that every horse that is 10 or under is a Genesis, because breeding has been open previously, and if you breed a Z1 with a Z1, 1 plus 1 equals 2, but you'll get a legendary. It's no longer a Genesis blood type, or sorry, it's no longer a Genesis breed type. It becomes a legendary. We'll have a look at that in a minute. But what you need to know about the Z number, or the genotype, is that it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for Genesis. But then as you breed, those numbers are summed or added together. So if you breed a Z10 with a Z10, you get a Z20. And that can go all the way out to a ceiling of Z268. So if you breed a Z200 with another Z200, you don't get a Z400, you will get a Z268. Now, another point that you need to sort of weigh up is how important is keeping those Z numbers low in the breeding system. Is it better, or is it more important to try and maintain a low number, or is it okay to drift out and breed Z20, Z30, Z40, Z50, Z60? How does that impact? And we will touch on that when we do the deep dive on genotype coming up in a couple of days. If the video has already been released, have a look at the playlist link below, and you might be able to just go through all my videos in a day or two, one after the other, and have a look at those deep dives as well. Okay, breed type, a quick overview of breed type. Of course, the guardians of the DNA are the Genesis. They are the original horses. And then when we breed two Genesis horses together, initially we will get a legendary. And we'll go deeper on this again in the deep dive breed type video. But the Genesis are the original guardians. How important they are in the system, we'll find out in the future. And they live forever. Currently, all the horses live forever. So you're buying a Genesis racehorse. How important is that Genesis in the breeding system? And the fact that it can live forever and have 1,000 or 10,000 offspring over the next 10, 20, 50, 100 years. How long will this game last? We don't know that either. But keep that in mind. The horses currently live forever. So if the Genesis prove to be really, really important in the breeding structure, which I have a hunch they might be, then, you know, that fact that they can live forever and continue to pass on that DNA could be really, really important in the overall plan, your overall vision potentially in what you want to go and chase down. So we will take a deep dive on the Genesis. It goes Genesis, Legendary, Exclusive, Elite, Cross, Pacer. Now, how important are those levels and what do each of those levels mean? We will take a look at in the deep dive. But just remember, if you're searching for a Genesis, just because it's a Z10 or lower doesn't necessarily mean that it's automatically Genesis, because there has been breeding open. So there are some, for example, Z2 legendaries. There are some Z3, 4, 5, 6, 7 exclusives, etc., as you go down that line. So keep your eye out, have a look at that playlist below. The deep dive videos might already be released, so you can jump straight in and we'll take a closer look at bloodline, a closer look at genotype, and a closer look at breed type in individual, more detailed videos. Thanks again for watching along. I look forward to seeing you next time. If you are brand new and you're loving the content and you're loving Zed Run, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as a form of entry. As I said, there are people that are selling knowledge that is nowhere near as good as the stuff I'm giving away on the channel, and in particular in this playlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.